So, hi everyone. I am Tommaso Migliore, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of MDOTM. Because AI it's becoming such a relevant topic, I've been asked to answer what are the top 5 unanswered questions relating to AI applied to the world of investing. But first, let me start to present a little bit who we are as a company, what we do, and then I'll dive into the question. We are a fintech company. We are a leading player in terms of applying artificial intelligence to the world of investing. We're a team of more than 50 people based in London, and with offices also in Milan, Switzerland, and in the Nordics. And we focus just on one thing, applying artificial intelligence specifically to the world of investing, to make sure that happens in a very sound way. We divided our tech team, which is made of more than 40 people, into 3 departments. The R&D department, which is basically takes care of the coming up with new ideas, developing new models, and thinking on new ways to solve a complex problem around finance. And that's team number 1, and 2 other teams. The second one is the team that we call Mission Control. Mission Control is the team at NASA that looks at the monitor, the rocket launches and lands itself, but still there's a lot of people making sure that everything runs smoothly. We have the same team. That team is though composed of financial analysts more than R&D, which is mostly physicists and engineers. Financial analysts that are monitoring every day that the model work, that the technology is coherent and it's functioning the way it's supposed to. And then finally, we have the team of engineering, which is a software engineer. They create all the software architecture and structure to make sure that everything runs the way it's supposed to, and to basically activate the cloud for cloud computing, activate the data, making sure that the data is clean, and so on and so forth. Because though building AI is not really 2 guys and a laptop kind of thing, but you really need to have a lot of structure, we also conduct base research at the university level. So research is usually conducted in 2 ways. There is applied research, where you expect the research to give practical output that you can use, and we do that internally in our R&D department, as I said before. But also you need base research. Base research is where you wander the field of the unknown, and you try to find if there are new ways to look on how to solve problems. We do that in a lab, MDOTM lab, that we founded in partnership with 5 universities. The last one who joined is the Gothenburg University in Sweden. Internally in the lab, we have now more than 46 people, PhD students and professors, carry out a research project with us. We like to say that the lab is the place where ideas go to die, because honestly, to have a good idea, you need to have many not so good one, and that's the place where they go to die. When they're interesting, we bring it internally and we put it to the ground. Over the last years, because the business was founded 6 years ago, we established a business which is a B2B business. We use all this effort into R&D, etc., to then do 2 activities. On one side, to manage money with a sub-advisory business model, meaning that we work alongside asset gatherer and institutional investor to manage together with them portfolios, okay, which could be funds, discretionary mandates, certificates, whatsoever. And on the other side, we institutional investors still, they use our technology within their investment process. So our artificial intelligence get implemented within their investment decision making process to make better or more science-rooted investment decision. That ultimately is the thing we believe in the most. We believe that we are entering into a quantamental world where quant and the fundamental approach needs to work side by side. And AI is a very powerful tool to do it. Overall, we have under advisory a bit more than €1 billion on one side, and on the other side, meaning supporting using our technology, now we have a bit more than €30 billion that actually runs on our technology every day. What have we developed? We've developed this technology that we called ALICE, okay, which stands for Adaptive Learning in Complex Environment, which is not a trading algorithm, but it's a broad investment methodology. And we're starting to appreciate the difference between probably a traditional algorithm, a quant methodology, and more like an AI approach, which is less scripted into being just a trading algorithm, but more like in a broad sense of an investment methodology, or rather looking at market opportunities. Then, of course, you can use this to create portfolios and to narrow it down and bring it down to the ground into creating an investment strategy or a portfolio, but it starts at a very high level. This is what Alice does. So what are the 5 most or less answered questions on AI? The first one is AI in investing. Why does it matter today? It matters today because the market, the financial market, are becoming more complex every day. We all have this perception, and it's actually very easy to understand why. Internet has democratized the access to information. Everybody has access to the same information at the same time. And then secondly, economies, countries, companies are way more connected one to another than they used to be in the past. So understanding these deep dynamics, it's becoming tougher and tougher. Furthermore, we live in an information abundance, and cutting through the noise proves a different challenge for the human. So that's why AI is relevant. But why is it relevant to solve this type of problem? Because it can work well where there is rising complexity. It can understand nonlinear relationship. Now, to simplify this concept, we grew up as human thinking that every complex problem has one right solution. That's just not the case. Most complex problems have more than one right solution. So finding this more than one right solution ultimately proves complicated, and AI is really good at doing this. Finance is the best example. There's not one right answer in finance. If we could see the future, the only right answer in finance would be that if we could see the future, it would be knowing what is the best asset class tomorrow and put 100% of your capital money on that. Actually leveraging that to the extent that the volume allow you to do so. Because that's clearly impossible, you need to think about a portfolio. A portfolio has an investment horizon, have asset classes you want to work with, and risk you want to hedge against, has a risk return profile, has a base currency, has where you're based as an investor. So it has different complexity and has different optimal solution depending on all these constraints. And then finally, probably the most interesting bit is that it adapts as new information flows in, as we do as human. As we grow, as we learn more stuff, we can adapt and learn to do things differently. Artificial intelligence can do just the same thing. That's why it's really interesting to solve this problem. Second question, where institutional investors are using artificial intelligence for real? So they're using it either in the investment process as a set of different, almost like signals that can be implemented within the investment process. For risk management purposes, mostly because risk management purposes, the non-linearity of problems is very compelling and actually can measure risk in a more dynamic way compared to traditional modeling. To product innovation. Product innovation means that, of course, having a technology that it's able to create multiple portfolios allows you to create different portfolio to enrich your product offering for your clients. And then finally, within investment decision making. This is where it's not necessarily just a set of tools, but it complements the asset allocation and at a tactical and strategic level efforts that all financial institutions need to face by looking at the market in a different way. And that's why it's having a very good traction. Third question, will AI replace or enhance investment decisions? So to understand this, we have to understand the role of the human and the role of the machine. Because honestly, the real underlying question here is, will it replace the human or not? And the answer is straightforward, no. But it complements it very well. And I think we have to look at not just AI in investing, but across how technology and human can work better together. We have to understand what the human are good at and where the technology is good at, okay? So I always like to say that the machine analyzes and delivers, the human comprehends and orients, or rather, the machine delivers, the human surprises, okay? These are two valuable things, but it's valuable only if they work, you know, conjunctly together. Think about the machine. A machine does not get tired, does not get bored, which is a problem that us as human we have quite a lot, doesn't misses the details, and a lot of the decision-making process that we do every day in investing and other fields as well is around around doing things that are very systematic. Okay, that's where the machine can excel. On the contrary, there are things that are way more opportunistic, way more random and erratic, and where the emotion plays a role in a positive way. That's where the human plays in a role, can have a strong advantage. So going forward, I don't envision a future in which all decision making in finance will be taken by crazy algorithm. I envision a future in which all decision making in finance will be taken a portion with algorithmic methodologies, okay, and a portion with people which know how to both use this technology and point it in the right way, and at the same time use their human capability, human intellect, to cover where the machine can clearly not. And this is not just utopistic future. This is what we've done with all the technology. The first thing that technology does is try to solve repeatable problems where there is a very high complexity in the making, right? Where we keep the more creative part, the more opportunistic part to the human. And so far, this is what we've done throughout technology, and this is happening also in decision making as well. Fourth question: can we explain AI decision? More than can we, must we explain AI decision? The answer is yes. The concept of I don't care, I just looked at the test and the results are good, it's good enough for me, it's not really applicable, especially in finance. It might work, this concept of a black box, it might work if you're working in a place where the rules are very clear, such as a board game, chess, Go, whatsoever, where the rules are very clear and the boundaries are very, very clear. But because most of the decision making happens in an open environment where you're always working with limited information, forcing the machine to come up with an output without even understanding the process and just measuring the quality of the output through a test, it's not really applicable, because there's such a high risk of overfitting, meaning not really catching the dynamic, but just catching, learning the data, basically. It's too high. So how do we do it? Practically speaking, you don't need to create a technology that it's a monolithic, okay? You need to create a technology. Here is represented by microservices technology, which is very down to the IT world, but it's the same thing in AI. Rather than creating one big artificial intelligence, you need to create a cluster of different techniques that combine together. They're able to ensure the traceability and breaking down all the different steps, so that you can clearly have a good understanding of what's going on at different levels. And then finally, you need to create a structure that it's able to make sure that to implement this process in a very robust and sound way. So our example, which I'm not saying that it's necessarily the only one, but it's quite robust, is to separate the people who are coming up with the algorithm from the people who are monitoring the algorithm and the people who are creating the architecture to make sure that the algorithm actually works, which is R&D, engineering, and mission control. They need different talents. They need different, this team needs different talent. They need different technology and different backgrounds, okay? But all of them are constantly interacting with the technology. That for us, it's LS, okay? This allows you to have an architecture that it's very traceable, and then processes to make sure that you can always trace back what's going on. Final and fifth and last question, can AI predict the future? The answer is no, nobody can predict the future, of course, but we have to understand how artificial intelligence can have a good edge to make a probabilistic forecasting on the future, okay? And the concept relies in the fact of generalization. Generalization is the principle that applies to all models in reality, but especially is relevant in when talking about AI, and it's the ability to extract and understand something because you've got the underlying properties. You're all able to tell that these are trees, even though you've never seen exactly the same picture. Why? Because you know the properties of a tree. A tree is made of leaves attached to branches. The branches and the leaf together have a certain ratio with the trunk. If it's too small, it becomes a bush. Because you know the properties of a tree, you're able to recognize different trees that you've never seen before. Okay, a kid that understands what a table is that not necessarily needs to understand or to see exactly the same table in terms of color, material, proportion, shape to say table. Somehow it got the properties of a table. Making sure that the model generalizes is crucial because it means that they got the properties of the market in our case, and therefore they can use these properties to recognize things that they've never seen before. How do we do that? We do this with different techniques, mostly through clustering. So going back to the example of the trees, where you would define them in feature, and then you can focus on the details, and maybe you're able to tell that this is an apple tree, even though there were no apples in the picture just a second ago, because you can focus on the details. We do a similar process. We focus on all the information available set, which is, for us, it's macro data, fundamental data, and market data, so a lot of data. We create different scenarios in the past, a lot of them, and then we cluster them in one moment in time, and we create bubbles, so cluster, a more detailed cluster, to find if there are analogies within these examples from the past that we can use to create a prediction for, a probabilistic prediction for the future. This process is what we call non-chronological learning, okay? It overcomes the straightforward pattern recognition, so just trying to find the patterns in the past and hoping they repeat in the future, which from a financial point of view, it's not so robust, but it can focus on trying to find different dynamics in the past, more detailed one, that dynamics are part of how market works. So we just then need to recognize in what condition we are today and use those dynamics to make a forecast for the future. Can we predict the future? Nobody can predict the future. Can we have an educated guess on how market can evolve and then adapt as time passes? Yes. And let's not forget that winning in the game of finance is not a matter of seeing the future, because that's clearly impossible, but it's a matter of taking calculated risk and balance them each other in a very mathematical and robust way. If you do that systematically over and over, that creates the true edge of finance. With that, I thank you for listening, and I remind you that we're called MDOTM, and we are and we believe in science-rooted investment decision. If you have any question, please send us at info@mdotm.eu, and you can follow us on LinkedIn through the very nice QR code that the marketing team put together. So hopefully you can follow our updates there, and you can ping us there if you want to know more. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.